Well, hello there, and this time I would like to do something unusual and take a little X course and talk about something related to the game, um, which, I want to show you on the screen. And as said last time, that I was gonna level up my stats by going in between those signposts in the world, which is really, really dull. So I'll do that off screen, kind of. So for this time, let's take a look at something that was part of the storytelling back in the day, which is the manuals. Yes, a lot of these games had like great manuals and like, with those pixelated graphics and the low amount of stuff you could do, with artwork and stuff in the game. A lot of these games would rely on showing you like really detailed stuff in the manuals, in accompanying material on the box. So we'll see that in a minute. And that was part of the storytelling. It also would have like more explanations in there and stuff that you now find in any game. I mean, if you play like an RPG, you would have something like a codex in there in a modern RPG, which, where you can look up details on the monsters you fought. For example, I'm still playing Wulong Fallen Dynasty, and I have like encyclopedia entries on any characters I meet in the game, so I can look them up and read about them and stuff. And back in the day, that was done by manual, and the later Ultima games all had like this really elaborate material that they came with, like extra stuff. I remember when I bought Ultima 6, it had the box with like this really cool artwork, and then you'd open it and it would have like several different books. I think it had the spell book in there with all the spells. It had the manual, it had a bestiary showing you, telling you more about the monsters you'd meet, and it had a cloth map of the world, like, the world map printed on cloth, which is really cool. And also, it had like a little moonstone in there. And moonstones, those appear later in the story of the later games. They open moon gates, which you can use to travel to Britannia. So, as I said, I bought collections of the first three, and then games 4, 5, and 6 on GOG.com. And I love the fact that you also get all the material, scans of the manuals, when you buy those games as a PDF. So let's look at the manual, and I can go into more details because I talked about stats, but I didn't talk about it much. In the last video, I raised my agility. I raised my strength was raised by the king because I completed a quest, and my charisma was raised. And I mentioned that with charisma, your charisma skill determines the prices in shops. And so I wanted to give you a bit more detail on the other stats in Ultima 1. Strength, of course, lets you hit harder, so it determines the damage you do, together with the weapon you use. Agility is your chance to hit and to successfully steal. Those are the two things. I didn't do any stealing in the game. I don't really plan on doing that, but maybe I'll save the game at some point and try a little bit of it just to see what it does and how it works. But agility is really important to hit. You see a lot of my attacks still missing. Then we've got a stamina, which is defense against attacks. So on top of the armor you wear, the more stamina you have, the less damage you take. Charisma I talked about. Wisdom is the ability to successfully cast spells, and intelligence is the power of the spells you cast. So if you want to use a lot of spells, you better level up your wisdom and intelligence, and I will try to get all my stats to 99 via that thing with the signpost. Now, without further ado, let's have a look at the manual. This is the starting page of the manual, and you can see this drawing. I will tell you the name of the artist at the end. He has been with the Ultima games for a long time. I think he even did some stuff for Ultima Online like almost 20 years later. And so that's the cover, and there you already see, like a knight fighting a dragon, and it looks, more detailed than what you can do in game. So here is the story of the game, pretty much. It's a welcome letter. It's like talking to you, like, "Hail, noble one, our land is in need of a stalwart hero, one who will brave perils too horrific to consider," and stuff. And he's explaining, who Mundane is. For example, down there, Mundane the wizard hath wrought his malice well, and stuff. And you see more artwork, and at the very end it says, "Only the young Lord British remains steadfast in a vision of a peaceful and united Cesaria." That's the name of the land we're in. I mentioned that in I think the first video. Back then it was called Cesaria, and after Ultima 3, starting with Ultima 4, it was called Britannia, and it had a different geography because of this cataclysmic thing happening. "In his castle and his town, the pure of heart will find an ally and replenishment for the needs of one who has chosen to fight for the realm. Aid us in ridding our land of the scourge that has befallen us. O noble one, we beseech thee, for without thine aid we shall surely perish before the onslaught of the maleficent necromancer. Slay the evil mundane." So that was your quest, that was the explanation, which you really wouldn't get in game. And it describes the different races: human, elf, dwarf, bobbit. Bobbits, for example, a small and gentle race. The Saurian bobbits are believed to have come to our realm from a distant place. Don't know if that's a little nod at Lord of the Rings, we stole it from a different artist. Never mind. And then it goes into professions: fighter, cleric, wizard, thief. You remember that from the character creator in my first video. Then it talks about castles and towns, and mentions the kings, of whom there are 8, 2 on each continent. You see some more artwork. Let me see. Let me zoom in a little bit. There, I guess, is Lord British, and I think the picture is actually really based on Richard Garriott, who always called himself Lord British, and he would often, for promo pictures, wear like kingly attire, I guess. So let's move on. Just a drawing for some added flavor, and that is what would be going on in your mind when playing those games. On the screen you see all this very low detail, low res, pixelated stuff, but in your mind you would see your actual hero and what he would be wearing and stuff. So yeah, this talks about shops and what you can buy at the shops. And you always have the serpent icon up there, which is like part of the Ultima lore. And then it talks about dungeons. Take a close up of that. And, talking about what you do in them and what can happen in there, why you would walk in there. Then there's something about star walking. I wonder, Lord British really likes the Star Wars movies with that guy, Luke Skywalker. So let's look at the page about star walking. Before the Archmage Mundane can be defeated, one's metal will first have to be tested in the farthest reaches of the heavens. 'Tis said that the evil one has formed alliances with star-walking monsters of unparalleled savagery. These malicious creatures stand poised to swoop down upon our people and devastate them. The need to slay the wild wizard is redoubled in the face of this threat. So that's your explanation, and it goes into more detail. That's your explanation for later on getting into that spaceship scenario. Then it talks about the magical arts and explains the spells. So you've got your explanation there because, there wasn't enough room on the disk to put all that into the game. Includes the spells Blink, Create, Destroy, Kill, which is an enchantment hurled at a foe in front of the spellcaster. If successful, this cantrip, I guess, is a little reference to Dungeons and Dragons again, which was a huge influence on this, will destroy the opponent. Nether up, nether down, we saw them already, and I think we'll get access to those spells that we haven't seen in the stores once we level up more. So prayer, unlock we always saw as well. And for example, prayer says the ability, when in dire straits, to call upon one's personal deity in hopes of finding a way out of a pressing dilemma. Should be used only when a spellcaster is in serious need of divine aid. Well, doesn't really say what it does, but I guess it's a healing spell. So, the bestiary, it will explain the enemies, and I don't want to go into too much details because I don't want to spoil myself. I mean, we saw like necromancers, rangers, and orcs on the outside, and inside the dungeon we saw like more skeletons, we saw rats and stuff like that. But I don't want to take a look here because, you know, it's been more than 30 years since I played this game, and I don't remember all the stuff that happens in the lower dungeons. I already remember, only remember the battle run. Again, I mentioned it before, it's probably a little jam, a little riffing on the battle rock, but yeah, you have to fight one for a quest later on. And it goes through all of those enemies. And in the later books, this would be like in the later games, this would be a separate book with little drawings of the monsters and stuff. I'll show you that once we get to the other games. And that's pretty much it. And there are the credits saying, I, Lord British, would like to thank the following persons for their effort in creating this work. Special thanks goes out to those who spent many arduous months programming this new version, because we're replaying the remake from 1986. Dev Holly as lead programmer and team manager, Dr. Cat, Steve Muse, Stella Snell, and it mentions Dennis or Loubet, I guess it's a French name, Loubet, for the magnificent illustrations within this book, and to Laurie Ogbulu for outstanding graphic and design work. So Dennis Loubet is the guy who did a lot of those drawings for them. And yeah, so that's the manual. And what's weird is I just noticed, because I wanted to go into details on a few topics, that the stats aren't really explained in here, even though I didn't read all of the text. So you know, I explained those in the beginning of the video. I will go level them off screen, so I won't have to bore you with going back and forth between signposts. And I hope you enjoyed looking at this manual. If I really do Let's Plays of the other Ultima games, I will show you the other material, because for the later games there was much more. There were more maps and stuff like that, but that was the one for the remake of the Ultima 1 game. So thank you for watching. Next time I'll show you in-game footage again, and I'll probably go deep into the dungeons to do some quests. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.